So,
and we don't have much of anything before that.
No, right? No, we don't.
Yes, but that makes a lot of sense.
But each culture has a flood story. Mm-hmm. They have a creation myth, and they have a flood myth. It's pretty universal. Yeah,
and we see things change, at least for the people right there, drastically all the time. So the idea that would be a driving force, and that something could wipe out whole civilizations, does not seem far-fetched to me in the least, And
I wonder if the Nephilim, I was thinking about this when I was listening to that episode. I wonder if the Nephilim mythology, first of all, it's kind of a mistranslation or a transliteration, but I do wonder if some of this giant stuff with the Nephilim is because these ancient cultures might have dug into some of these mounds or dug into some of these themselves and found these giant skeletons, and they had to find a way to explain this. So I wonder if some of that is possible, because we know that the ancient Greeks found dinosaur bones,
and hence dragons. Yes.
Yeah, right.
And that makes, yes, I think there's also some reverse, we found this thing, now let's explain it. Oh, I think that's absolutely something that happens and has happened throughout history. The Nephilim fascinate me. I'm not a religious guy. I'm not, trashing anybody else's religion, but I'm pretty agnostic. But I am fascinated by the whole idea and how well that fits in with a lot of the pagan pantheons, that these kind of superhero-like people that, come from another place, but it's not that far away. I mean, it's like at the top of the mountain or something.
Right. Demigods.
And yes, demigods. And you've got Thor and Dionysus and Perseus and all of these people. And if they're your enemy, then you've got Goliath, and they're mighty men, but they're not impossible. You know what I mean? They're not, 50 feet tall. They're, 9 feet tall and have 7 fingers on each hand and are really super strong, but just like in a impressive to us level, not in an impossible level. And that seems more like something that could really happen than it does like just, the tenets of a religion.
Yeah.
That seems like it would be based on actual events.
Well, and it happens naturally. I mean, there are, very tall people.
If Shaq ever gets time travel, let me tell you, he's going to show up around.
He's going to be the God King of Samaria.
And tall is relative too. I mean, it said that Charlemagne was tall, but we think he was about 6 feet. But that was odd in 800 AD, as opposed to, when everybody's probably like, 5 feet, that's going to be a giant to you. But there are some people that think Charlemagne wasn't real. But, if you're going to buy new chronology, then Charlemagne isn't real. But anyway, that's just a personal soapbox.
No, I get you. And the flip side, people think Napoleon was short, and he was of average height. He was just a regular person. He gained a following, but they always portray him as this little guy who like has a chip on his shoulder because he's under a certain height. And no, he was right about average for his time. Yeah, it's one of those things.
Some of that could have been British propaganda. I mean,
which is always a factor.
Short little man.
Short little Frenchman.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, that's always a factor. Somebody's writing, especially during times of war and, political conflict. I wonder how short or tall Kim Jong-un really is compared to, well, that's unfair because he's the one non-starving person, so it's tough to say. Yes. The other people in his society, yes.
So, Vincent, the people want to know, though, where are the bones?
That gets interesting, doesn't it? I wish I had a quick and easy answer. He said, just go down to the library the museum over at the corner of such as no. Unfortunately, in Wisconsin, they reside in 2 locations, still buried in the sacred mounds that were preserved, which is where they belong. And unfortunately, just thrown away and scattered in the name of progress because, and this was in one of the newspaper articles that I posted there, that they were digging to make a new sidewalk and they found these gigantic bones, but they didn't really, it wasn't like that big a deal. It's kind of like, we'll get these bones out of the way so we can get the sidewalk built. And so a lot was just trashed. I think there are some that are still undiscovered. I think that if you go to that lake over by Estalon State Park and we're able to do some scuba diving archaeology at the bottom, you might find some fascinating things. And it's not called Estalon State Park for no reason. Mm-hmm. It looks a hell of a lot like Estalon in Mexico. Yes. Well, there's a pyramid, so some of the bones I believe we have in the ground under the sacred mounds, which is good. And obviously the people to whom those mounds are sacred aren't wild about anybody digging them up, especially after everything that's happened. I think some were disappeared by the Smithsonian. I'm not saying there's a vast ongoing conspiracy, but I'm saying in some occasions, I think there was an effort to keep these. We want to keep them, but we want to keep them out of sight so that people who aren't quite as intelligent and sophisticated as us don't get the wrong impression. Mm-hmm. And I think some are held at institutions like that. Yes.
Do you think it would be kind of the same argument about something like UFOs or alien existence now, that it would just cause too much social chaos, or it questions too many cultural and religious assumptions, that it's just safer to not have it be public?
And that would, absolutely. And that was even a more pronounced attitude 100 years ago, when, it's literally guys sitting around in the country club, in the smoking jackets and everything, deciding what can be released and what can't. I'm glad you touched on that, because I really am of 2 minds on this when it comes to UFO disclosure. And part of me says, yeah, we've had our legs pulled so many times before. It's all BS. It's just a psyop. The government doesn't know any more than we do. I understand that, and that's a valid point of view. But part of me kind of thinks they do, okay? And that they're holding on and slowly warming us up for it. And I know the warming has been really slow, but every time we get something, a hint that, well, there might have been life on Mars a long time ago, but there isn't now. We know for sure there isn't now. Well, we don't know that, but I'll tell you, before the pandemic, I was ready to pound on the table and say, I want disclosure. I want you SOBs and the government to tell us everything. We're the American people. We have a right to know. Bring out the aliens. I want the alien bodies. I want the crash ships.
And the giants while you're at it.
Yeah. Yes. I demand the truth. And then the pandemic happened and I realized, geez, half people are going to attack the aliens if they see them and think they're demons. So it's,
you don't want that to happen anymore.
No way. I follow some people that I don't agree with, but I just like to know what they're thinking.
Yeah, can totally relate.
Yes. And there are a number of people on social media who are diehard paranormal believers, but everything's Satan.
Yeah.
Bigfoot is Satan. Ghosts, Satan. UFOs, Satan. Literally anything that isn't, in the zoo, the dogman, Satan.
Everything is demons.
Yes, indeed. I swear, if they see a three-legged dog, it's the devil. Maybe it's just a dog. But yes, there's very much that attitude, and unfortunately, that attitude predates the internet.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I was involved with some fundamentalist religious people, and that's probably why I'm an agnostic now. They were quite a cast of characters, and I had a guy seriously tell me, a volunteer chaplain, as a matter of fact, tell me that they're putting movies out like E.T. to normalize the demons that come down and pretend to be aliens.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Childhood's end.
Yes. And they want us to think they're aliens, but they're really demons. And they want to come down here and have us accept them, and then they'll take over.
So instead of a heart light, he's going to eat your heart.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen. That reminds me a little bit of like the Satanic Toys thing that they tried to get going.
Oh yeah,
in the 80s, where they.
Oh, yeah. I knew people who would not let their kids play with Ninja Turtles because Ninja Turtles are of the devil. And it's like they're turtles who fight crime with karate weapons.
Maybe it's because they're named after Renaissance humanist painters. I don't.
Yeah, oh, well, you got really deep there, Adam.
Or it could be that you're just crazy.
They're actually ascended Hermetic masters.
Yes, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello.
But yes, there are people who totally bought into that. And I put that in the past tense. There are people today who, feel that way. And see it everywhere.
It makes me think, though, I mean, if the phenomena really is as weird as people like us think it is, then, maybe it actually is kind of like that, in that they know something, but they really couldn't even explain enough of it to not actually disrupt society. I mean, because it's probably weirder than space aliens. And how are you even going to release that type of information? How can you even be the authority to disclose something like that?
I think that there's a lot of truth to that. There's something Terence McKenna said that has stuck with me. And I'm paraphrasing, but only a little bit.
Do you do a good impression?
I'm not even going to try.
Okay,
that's just Joshua Cutchin's wheelhouse. We'll let him do that. Josh will probably be on in a few episodes anyway, so we'll
and he does a killer impression. Yes.
Let him do his Terence McKenna impression.
He gets it down, but what he said was that I believe we're dealing with something that is portraying itself as an extraterrestrial invasion in order not to disturb us.
Yeah.
And that was, dude. Oh man. What if they're coming as aliens because we defined aliens less scary than what they really are? And wow, you really fully get that one. It's like, they may be handling us with, kid gloves to not freak us out. And that's, I think that's worth considering. And the whole disclosure thing, I just always keep in mind they can only do it once.
Right.
The press conference with the alien where they walk out and here he is, or here it is. That can only happen once. You don't get a reboot with that. You don't get a do-over.
Yeah.
And the world reacts how it reacts. And I don't predict it reacts all that great, and we don't know what their values might be. They might be radically different from ours. And we don't, and there's always the built-in, when it comes to aliens, when it comes to extraterrestrials, there's always the built-in that this is something new. Much harder to accept would be, oh no, we've been here for a million years. We watched you guys evolve. Yeah, we assisted you guys in evolving, that would be much harder to accept. If they're brand new from Alpha Centauri, that's one level a lot to deal with. But the idea that they've always been here and that we have interacted forever